Hello everyone, my name is Martina Tortravia, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my presentation about the material covered in this week's lecture, Marriage and Family. Having a family are two things that many people dream of doing in their lives. They are joyous moments that are often accompanied by family, friends, and celebrations. Once you get married, you are able to start a family of your own. Marriage is important because it frames rights and commitments in ways that both the spouses and third parties can understand. There are many different types of families, and some family structures may be more common than others. Families can be related by blood or marriage, live together, and help form the economic union. Firstly, let's discuss some key points about what a family is. A family can be defined as an intimate group of two or more people who live together in a committed relationship, care for one another and any children, and share activities and close emotional ties. Types of families include nuclear families, extended families, and more. Many people also may have a family that is either monogamous or polygamous. And the question that we will be focusing on for today's presentation is, why do some people engage in polygamous relationships rather than monogamous ones? Throughout the presentation, you will be learning some of the reasons why some people choose polygamous relationships over monogamous ones. Now let's go over the differences between monogamous and polygamous relationships. Many modern relationships are monogamous. This means that the relationship involves only one other partner rather than multiple partners. But this is not the case for every relationship. For much of human history, over most of the globe, the most common alternative to this model was polygamy, marrying involving more than two spouses. Can a woman have more than one husband? This is something that is definitely possible, and it is called polyandry, which I will be focusing on more today. There are many reasons why someone might choose to steer away from the typical monogamous marriage and choose a polygamous relationship instead. Polyandry is less common than its counterpart polygyny, when a man has multiple female partners, and a cultural acceptance and prevalence depends on different societies for polygyny and polyandry. A combination of these terms also exists called group marriage. Group marriage is when several husbands are married to several wives, which can be seen as a combination of these two. Today, polygamy is mostly practiced in places where men tend to not live very long and die young. So as we can see by this first picture, living in polygamous households is very uncommon in most places, and there's only a small percentage of individuals in polygamous households around the world. So first, there's the dark blue, which is less than 0.5% of the country. So those are in places such as Canada, the USA, Brazil, Germany, Russia, China, and more. Then we have the light blue, which is 0.5 to 1.5%, which is in places such as South Africa. Next, we have the pink, which is 1.6 to 9.9%, which is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And lastly, we have the orange, which is over 10% of the population, which is Chad, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Senegal, and more. So now that we know a little bit more about polygamy, let's look at where polygamy is most widely practiced. So this one goes a little bit more in depth from the previous statistic, and this one is where polygamy is most widely practiced as of 2019. So coming in at 36%, we have Burkina Faso. So that is the country that practices polygamy the most. Next, we have Mali, which 34% of the country practices polygamy, followed by Gambia, where 30% of the country practices polygamy. Then Nigeria, and Guinea all practice 29, 28, and 26% of the population practice polygamy. And lastly, we have Guinea-Bissau and Senegal, which both of them have 23% of the country that practices polygamy. The first of many reasons why some women may choose to be in a polyandrous relationship is because of cultural and religious beliefs. Religion and culture play a major role in many countries, especially those where religion plays a vital role in society. In some Islamic, Hindu, and even Christian countries, polygamy is a normal practice, or it is otherwise tolerated. In some cultures, polyandry is a traditional practice with deep historical roots. Cultural or religious beliefs may hinder the acceptance of polyandrous relationships. Historical practices of these certain cultures and religions affect whether polyandry is practiced as well. In certain historical contexts, polyandry might have been practiced for specific reasons, and these traditions could influence contemporary choices. The next reason why some women may choose to be in a polyandrous relationship is for their personal issues that they want to combat and resolve. Factors such as fertility issues, personal preference and autonomy, and wanting survival and security are all things that can impact a woman's choice on her relationship and whether she chooses a monogamous or polygamous relationship. Fertility issues are something that people in monogamous relationships often experience. So, polyandry can be a way to increase the chances of having children since there are more men to try and conceive with. Multiple partners provide more opportunities for conception, and polyandry can also reduce the costs of sexual harassment. Personal preference of having one or more than one partner is another reason for polyandry. This preferred lifestyle could be a consensual arrangement where all parties involved are comfortable with the dynamic. Women are also looking for security in a relationship. Having multiple husbands can provide women with increased physical and economic security. If one partner is unable to fulfill his role, examples such as due to illness or injury, others can provide and support. Now that we know a bit of background information about polygamy, polyandry, and why some women choose to have a polyandrous relationship, let's discuss some real-life examples of places where polyandry occurs in different parts of the world. Even though polygamy is illegal in many parts of the world, such as Canada, the United States, most of Europe, and more, there are still some places in the world where it is legal. However, only about 2% of the global population lives in polygamous households. A place where polyandry is legal and practiced is in India. In India, it is common for a group of brothers to all marry the same woman. This would make all of those brothers the women's spouses. This type of family structure allows the family to survive in many ways. Since there is more than one man in the family, children have several fathers to take care of them. This type of family can also serve as a form of birth control, and overall new births decrease. In some societies facing issues of overpopulation or limited resources, polyandry might be practiced as a way of keeping population growth in line. And here is another graph that we can look at that talks about the percentage of population by religion that is polygamous. So this is a real-world example of polyandry and polygamy because 15.25% of tribal communities practice polygamy, 7.97% of Buddhists practice polygamy, 6.72% of Jains practice polygamy, 5.8% of Hindus practice polygamy, and 5.7% of Muslims practice polygamy at this time. Overall, there are many different types of families and relationships. There are monogamous relationships and polygamous relationships, which are either polyandrous or polygamous. Throughout this presentation, we have discussed what a polyandrous relationship is, some reasons why some women choose to be in these types of relationships, real-life examples of where this type of relationship is legal and practiced, and more. It is important to recognize that the acceptance of polygamous relationships depends on different countries around the world, and that reasons for this type of relationship can vary. Communication, consent, and cultural context are three things that must be present when forming these relationships. And now I will leave you with these three questions to think about. Number 1, how does the practice of polygamy vary across different cultures? Number 2, what are some of the legal and social challenges faced by individuals involved in polygamous relationships, and how do these challenges differ in regions where polygamy is legal versus illegal? And lastly, what impact does polygamous marriage have on gender dynamics and relationships within the family unit? Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something new today.